Hello friends, welcome to episode 112 of Storyteller Conclave. This is a show all about helping you run the best tabletop role-playing game that you can. Whether you're a new storyteller or dungeon master learning the craft, or an experienced storyteller looking to take your game to the next level. I'm Sarah.
I'm Rob.
How we doing, Rob?
It's been a week.
It
in
has
a day.
been a week, yep.
I think in a day it's been a week. So,
Oof.
But we're here. It's therapy session, and we're talking about conflict. So hey, we can move through this.
Yeah,
we can make this work.
Yeah.
So
We had my game last weekend.
we did. We definitely did have your game.
The epic conclusion of the first chapter of the game. I thought it went.
And the
thought it went
closing of
remarkably
D&D.
well. And the closing of D&D, yeah.
As a system. So.
I'm excited and very nervous because we're going to be
yeah.
moving to Savage Worlds at this point. So now
Mm-hmm.
I'm responsible for running a system I've never run before.
Yep.
So it's going to be a fun learning experience for all of us as we
Mm-hmm.
fumble our way through it.
And you're doing Swade.
Swade,
So,
yes.
Swade.
So, Adventure Edition.
Yes. It should be fun. It should be fun. Looking over the rules and trying to do the mental flip between story styles and get a feel for it is definitely been interesting. So
Yeah, I've been looking over some of my old notes because I didn't really intend to make this shift until a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of my notes for the continuation parts of my story are written all with the assumption that it was going to be a D&D game.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've got like links to the monster manual and
Oh yeah, all the things.
Okay, so you guys are going to do this battle and then that battle and then that battle, and then I'm thinking like I'm not consigned to just linking together a series of battles and giving you guys a narrative for it anymore. So
Right, and that's like legitimately, I think the concern of trying to change systems is that you're trying to make it kind of less tactical fighty.
Mm-hmm.
And like your brain has to adapt to that new thing.
Yep.
Yeah, that was my whole problem with moving from 7C to D&D.
Oh,
and flipping between the two of them because it's very different in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
So
yep, it's a big hurdle, and like I said, hopefully we'll all get together through it together.
I'm sure we'll do great.
I've got to read. I wrote up a big speech for you guys about how it's like this is not D&D. Don't try to play it like D&D, otherwise you're gonna have a bad time. And I just need to reread that myself over and over and over again, and just kind of get that stuck in my head.
Right.
But we are here to talk about in-party conflict.
Yes.
It's one of the, I would say, probably biggest common problems that like end up really causing rifts in gaming groups.
Yeah.
Is when you start getting players, or not players, but like characters acting out against other characters.
Yeah, and we're not necessarily. I would say in this we're leaning less toward, at least in the discussion, being just like a kind of evil character outside of the group, but more forcefully internally.
Yeah, it's
going against someone else's goals, wishes, abilities, or even just them directly.
And, directly impacting the fun of other players at the table. I mean, you can do whatever you want to NPCs. That's what they're there for, to be acted upon. But another PC has another person behind it. And sometimes they don't appreciate another player at the table screwing them over.
Stealing from them, attacking them.
Exactly. Or even just getting in big arguments with them.
Antagonizing.
Antagonizing them. So
bullying.
But there's definitely a right way and a wrong way to do inter-party conflict. This isn't to say that you can't ever get in an argument or you can't ever steal something from another player.
Right.
But there's certain ways of going about it, and there's certain things that should be set up in the narrative first before it really becomes a thing that I think every player at the table can accept.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's basically what we're talking about tonight. So,
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, what do we mean by in-party conflict? We list off a few of those, like attacking another player character.
Yep, totally agree with that.
Stealing from them is a pretty common one.
I would say more common is the concept of not direct stealing, but indirect stealing, aka that loot is split multiple ways and not, or taking loot early or whatever. That was always a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
Sniping loot.
Oh, there's a +2 greatsword here that the fighter would love, but I'm the thief, so I'm going to pocket it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to sell it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or I'm going to pocket all the gems or whatever.
Yep. Yeah. Deliberately derailing another PC's goals, plot, or story.
I've seen that a few times.
It's a little more subtle, but it's definitely, it's hurtful.
Yeah.
Deliberately, I put down deliberately, but also part of getting the party into danger. I've seen this a number of times where, like, you've got someone who's just playing stupidly, and they want to be a murder hobo in the town inn, the tavern, and, like, I just killed the barmaid. Okay, right. Why? Like, the guards come in and they try to arrest you. I killed the guards. Like, why are we doing this, buddy?
Yep. Yep.
And then selling out another PC to nefarious forces.
That I've found way more common online than I expected it to be.
Exactly.
Like, one of the biggest ones that because I was reading through inter-party conflict stuff, and I literally just found troves of it, but most recently I saw one where a player was playing a warlock. And after several sessions confided with the group that he was trying to break free of it. That he was like, that was his arc that he was working on. And they were like, well, what's going on? He's like, well, I've got this deal that I've got with him. And one of the things that, he keeps asking for more, it feels like, and that the only way that I'm going to get out of this is, I've got to bring him this, and then I've got to do this, and then I've got to do this other things. But if I screw any of that up, like, pretty much my life's forfeit to him, but this is my way out of it. It's the bargain that I've got with him.
Sure.
And apparently one of the characters during a portion of it, the DM had presented one of the artifacts. And it was this, basically like a map effectively leading to something specific, and it was being protected and stuff, and he had happened to get it on top of the normal plot. And that player literally disintegrated it.
Oh, Jesus.
Like, in front of the group, like, this is evil, we need to get rid of this, I'm disintegrating it. And the DM was just like, you're disintegrating it. He's like, yeah, I'm going to cast Disintegrate on the map. So you're destroying the relic that he needs for his mentor. Well, yeah, because he's evil. His mentor or the player? Or the character? And he's just like, both of them. I don't agree with any of it. I don't like warlocks. Like, I made the decision I don't like warlocks or divine, so I'm just going to disintegrate it. That'll get him out of our group, and his lord will come for him, or whatever.
Y'all can't see it right now, but I'm rolling my eyes so hard at this.
The worst part about it when I was reading this was the DM didn't see a problem with that. With the other player wanting to basically ruin another player's character.
Yeah.
Who was part of an active plot that everybody was involved in, including this other player.
Right. If, like, the conceit is this is going to get the warlock to leave our group, finally. Like, if those words were spoken, man, like, there's a serious problem at the table.
Well, I mean, a bunch of the replies were, like, so you have you've got this active warlock who's created a sidebar campaign through his character, and everybody's bought in on it, including this wizard. And now he's telling you at this point in the game that he doesn't like this character?
Yeah.
Does he not like the player as well? And that was all. Does he not like the player? And the storyteller at that point goes, I think he never really liked him from the beginning of the session, but he hasn't said anything.
Well, now's a dandy time to say it.
So
now that we're all invested.
Yeah, so that was the biggest one that I read about.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, it's just awful in general. So I guess the next question crossing people's minds in the flow of this discussion is, why do we need a discussion about how to do this right?
Because it's going to happen.
It feels like a don't do it, but I think that's short-sighted. I think there's definitely very good ways where you can have in-party conflict and have a very rewarding experience come out of it.
Definitely.
If you don't do what you just said.
Correct.
And the other thing too is that, from a storyteller's perspective, PC versus PC conflict can be a little bit difficult to forestall, because ultimately it comes down to, like, you've got players making independent decisions. Like, you don't want to get in the middle of their role play and be like, don't role play that way, because it's almost like saying your fun is wrong. But there is a point at which you need to realize that 100% player agency should not extend. Very, very much like freedom of speech doesn't extend to shouting fire in a crowded theater.
Well, it has repercussions.
Exactly. Very much like that. 100% hands-off player agency can have just as strong repercussions, because you're just going to start hurting another person. If you don't, as the storyteller, step in and do something about it, then you're just losing control of your table, really.
Correct.
And I mean, nobody likes to be the kindergarten teacher or storyteller, but yeah, sometimes you do need to pull people aside and be like, hey, knock it off.
Yeah.
We're not having a good time, you know?
Yeah.
So...
This is a game. It's meant to be enjoyable.
Exactly. And every single one of your players should be having a good time.
Yeah.
That's kind of like job number one for the storyteller.
Is to be the ref of fun.
Yeah, to be ensure that everybody at the table is having fun. Everybody.
Yeah.
You know.
Actually, I take back the word ref. To be the waiter.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're delivering some of the fun, but half of the fun is them ordering it properly and enjoying the meal that they ordered.
Are you enjoying the game? I am, but can I get a side of ranch with my ranger? Yeah.
Them northeastern games.
So, you know, does this mean that PCs can't ever make decisions that hurt another PC? No, absolutely not.
No, I think you can. I think definitely there are systems that lean into it more. I would definitely say like City of Mist tends to have that way more often, but it's a system that also is defined by its party connections, bonds, and conflicts.
Yeah.
You know where the boundaries are because the game system helps you with that.
And I think Powered by the Apocalypse games typically have something like that as well. I know Dungeon World did.
Yes.
Where sometimes it did kind of have some a little bit of player conflict. Like one of the bonds in that was like, you don't trust X because Y.
Correct.
And again, there's a kind of a right way and wrong way to do that. Like the wrong way would just be like, well, I don't trust him, so I kill him.
Yeah.
You know, but the right way would be, you know, well, we'll get to the right way.
Right.
Okay. So what are typical reasons for what I'll refer to as PvP?
Okay.
You know, player versus player. Like why do people feel the need to do this?
I think for me, I would say that the first thing that comes to mind is them trying to play someone. Trying to find a character attribute that would do it. Whether it's the paladin going after evil, whether it's the cleric, you know, bombing all undead, whether it's the, evil warlock kind of character who doesn't have the same scruples everyone else has and just wants power.
Kleptomaniac, lone wolf, thief character.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know, the ranger who hates all people in cities, you know. It's the extreme trope. I think is the struggle that does that is people tend to push it to an extreme. And what's the most troubling about that is you don't see that anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, give me a piece of media, any media, where that's successful.
Yeah, basically.
Like, where does that extreme work?
Like Judge Dredd?
It doesn't even work there.
Maybe?
Even Judge Dredd has a compass and a code.
But he is the law.
Correct. All right? Which means he has a compass and a code.
Right.
And because of that, things change and evolve. But that's, I think, the struggle with most players is that when you're first developing characters and you haven't tried something before that was successful, often you tend to lean into the extreme.
Yeah. I think the goal is to, you know, find a trope and play a tropey character, but not taking it to the extent where you realize that no person in existence is literally just a walking trope with no nuance. You know, who can't tell good from bad, real from unreal, and just follows their trope no matter what.
Yeah, I think the other side of that is if they the difference between, you know, what would my character do versus this is what my character would do. One is a reactionary, one is a puppetry. And in each of those you have the ability to step away from the player. The player's getting their space from whatever that activity is and making it feel more acceptable to them. Because they're not the ones doing it. They're just reacting, or that's what they would do. You know?
Right.
And I think that's the struggle, is that when we talked about that separation, that isolationism of character versus player, this is where it can go wrong. This is where that step sometimes creates too much of a gap and separates you away from the table too far.
Yeah, you see this actually kind of discussion sometimes when things like racism and sexism come up in media.
Yes.
And it's like, well, it's just what that character would do. Like, of course he has to be racist. Of course he has to be sexist because that's just how that character is. So like, yeah, but there's an author behind that character who could have made a different choice for that character, a more nuanced choice, a better choice, that didn't involve in just, wantonly hurting somebody else with no repercussions.
Right.
And so there's like authorial intent.
Okay.
Where like you're the one running that character. Like you could have made any decision. That character is not an autonomous thing by itself that you're just hands off and the character is just running wild because that's just the character. You don't have any choice.
Right.
You do.
You do.
You have all the choice in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. That's if it all comes back down to Uno. You have a choice of whether or not to throw down that terrible card at that other player. It's your choice to do that. But you can always, well, that's just the way the game's played.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, you are intentionally making it challenging, and doing things to make the game tougher for that person.
Yep.
You are making that active effort. You're being competitive. And I think that's the part of... I think that's the key in here is if you've made D&D, or if you've made your role-playing competitive, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. You should... I mean, we talk a lot about the assumption of friendship at the table, and that kind of carries through with that. Is like, your idea in all things should be, how am I enhancing the fun of everyone here at the table?
As a person.
Correct. As a group of friends, how can I make sure that my friends are having a good time?
Right.
And if you're not role playing with that in mind, then you're really at the wrong table.
Right.
Go play Risk.
Yeah. I mean, go find something competitive that everyone understands is competitive and play it competitively.
Go play Warhammer. It's fine. Yeah. But the other thing, like you were saying about the nuance in the in their living trope, is like, okay, so my character's greedy, or he's a thief, or he's secretly worshiping an evil god, so I have to do this. Well, maybe. I mean, okay, so you've written an evil character or a selfish character or something like that. But there's so many better ways of going about things than just being a jerk or being destructive outwardly to other people, First off, like, most intelligent, selfish, or evil characters are going to be sure to cover their tracks. Okay, so just blatantly doing stuff to people's face is never a good thing. Or they manipulate their targets in such a way that they don't look selfish or evil for acting out.
Correct.
Try to make it look like it's in their best interest and stuff like that. Be more subtle about it. If you do tip your hand, you burn that person as a mark. They will never trust you again. So sitting there at your table and being like, okay, well, I am playing an actual evil character. I have the DM's approval. I have the group's approval to do this. And now I'm just going to murder someone in their sleep. Oh, okay. To what end? And now who else in the group is going to be okay with that?
Right.
So if you're going to play evil or at least very selfish, be a little smart about it. Like, I'm going to bring him up again a little bit later, but in my game, Sean's character is straight up a charlatan.
Yeah.
Absolutely just a charlatan. He's a liar. He is he's very secretive.
Exceptionally.
He's definitely got like some deals going on the side that we haven't even gotten into because he's been very low key about them.
Yeah.
And at the end of this game, he stole the major artifact that you guys were out to try to get rid of.
Yeah, to destroy. Yeah.
And
did it in a very convincing way.
Preserved his relationship with all of you guys. Didn't hurt anybody.
No, didn't hurt the group at all.
And in fact, when I was talking to him on the way home, and I was kind of congratulating him on the way home from the game on how great the scene was and how well thought out his act was, he was like, and I was like, and you did it without hurting anybody. his reaction to me was like, "Oh God, no, that was a hard line for me."
Yeah.
Like, I would never have hurt another party member doing that, because that's just a jerk move.
Right.
You know, I had to do it without hurting anybody.
Right.
And if I would have caused to hurt somebody, scrap the plan. They can have the crown, no problem. You know, so it's that sort of consciousness of the group's fun that's necessary to do this kind of thing. Absolutely betrayed and hoodwinked all of you, but did it fully with your fun in mind.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I also see, like, as we were first starting to talk about this, of like the demon trope, you know, where like you're the child of a demon lord who is locked away, and they're using and manipulating you to get back into the world. Doesn't mean you have to be a jerk. You know, you've got demon tendencies. You've got crazy power. You've got this voice talking to you and reminding you that you don't belong with any of these people, that you're above and beyond them, that they are merely, you know, grains of rice for you to consume or burn at will. But it doesn't mean you're a jerk. It means you're Raven.
Yeah.
In the Titans.
It
I mean...
It means you have some internal struggle to get over, and that's where the drama from your character comes, and maybe you should lean on the help of your friends.
Exactly. And those are the kind of moments, like, I remember good charlatan characters, where you look at them and you're like, I want to burn the ground that you walk on and everything you touch, so that you can never hurt anything ever again. You know, I just want to melt that existence away. And yet, at the same time, you need them. They have things.
Yep.
And you're like, Gah. Like, ESO's Abner Tharn. 100%. I wish I could just rub that guy out of existence, because he grinds on me that much. Like, every step you think he's just going to turn.
You'd be missing all of his amazing one-liners, though.
He does have some amazing one-liners. And at the same time, he does have a compass. He has, and it's very obvious. He is the opposite of Sean's character.
Yeah.
All of his cards are on the table. You know exactly what's going on with him.
Look, I am here to manipulate the situation so that the Tharn family comes out on top of this gigantic Daedric mess.
Correct. And I will preserve my family above all, regardless of how they feel about me. That is a requirement.
Like, so wait a minute, you have no loyalty to us? Of course I have loyalty to you. You're extremely useful to me in this moment.
That's right.
You know?
And you're like, God bless it, I hate you.
I mean, I don't bear you any malice, but you're extremely
useful. But
if I'm
going to get out of this situation, I'm going to need your help.
Yeah, exactly.
And for that, you're going to need mine.
Exactly.
And it's like, he's always got a card waiting to pull out and be like, you can't kill me because you need me for this.
You're always right. I hate you. Yeah.
Just brilliant, but at the same time, obvious. And that kind of skullduggery is so interesting, but grinding and exhausting all at the same time.
It's a little exhausting,
but I think it works as an NPC character. I think that's fine.
Yeah.
And I think it works great. I think as a PC, that goes a bit far.
Yeah, if you had a PC that was constantly manipulating everybody in the group like that all the time, that'd be
the only other person that I think of that does a good job of it is Jane from Firefly.
Yeah.
He's obvious, and you know that he can be bought. That's it. But even he pushed it to a point where it was too far.
Yeah.
And he knew where it was too far, and...
Didn't Mal put him in an airlock?
He put him in the airlock and was going to shoot him out.
Yep.
He was just going to eject him into space.
But we're going to have a conversation first, and I'm going to give you one last chance before I push the button.
It's pretty much what it came down to.
Yep.
And it's moments like that you're like, oh boy.
You know what? But that's a great moment though. You know, where you've got one character. You know, it almost comes to PvP.
Yeah, because he did sell out the group.
But you've got that moment where the two characters come to that dramatic moment, and it's never like, I sold you out, I just killed all your characters. Ha ha! The game is over.
Yeah.
You know, there was a dramatic moment where they turned it around. He found out he betrayed him, and they have an argument face to face about it. And they come to an understanding, you know. And I think, you know, situations like this can resolve like that. But I think it takes maturity on both people's parts. And I think it takes the idea that neither of you would ever really pull the trigger.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. Like, I think Mel, if there were a role-playing game and Mel blew him out of the airlock, I'd almost be a little bit salty about that. I'd understand, but I'd be like, I think we could have resolved that in character, a little bit better.
Yeah.
A little cleaner.
Yeah.
And I'd understand if Jane's player had some hurt feelings,
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. So.
All right. So, how do you manage this whole issue of player conflict as a storyteller?
Boundaries.
Boundaries
need to be established in session 0.
In session 0, yes.
Yeah. You need to know whether or not it's part of it or whether or not you want it outside of the game. And if you do want it in the game, what are the soft boundaries? What are some things, what are some edges that you can handle within that? Yeah. And you did a good job of that in our game.
Yeah,
I think you set those boundaries pretty early on that we may not like each other. We may not like what the other group's ideas are, but we're bound to work together regardless.
Right. And I think that's like a lot of the stories, a lot of like the tabletop horror stories I hear where you do get like out of control PvP going on, are basically because you had the storyteller allow a character who has those sort of tendencies. Like, oh, we're playing a good campaign, but like the DM's best friend decided to let him play, the evil self-serving thief who just stole everything and then killed the group.
Yeah.
And it's like, why would you let him play that character? Oh, well, I mean, he brought that character. That's the character he rolled up. I couldn't do anything about it. Well, yeah, you could have. Session 0, you could have said no.
100%.
But I think there's a, I think people hear like you shouldn't say no as a storyteller. And to an extent you shouldn't, as far as like you should be saying yes and as far as role playing goes and such like that. You don't want to railroad a story, but like this isn't railroading a story. This is legitimately setting up your story, legitimately setting up your campaign, and deciding what kind of characters you want in your story to begin with.
Right.
So like Rob was saying, my session 0, I told you guys your characters have to have a vested interest in working with everyone at the table.
Right.
If it comes down to you want to kill this other person, remember that your duty to the Empire or the guilds or whatever higher power you hail to or whatever wants you to cooperate.
Right.
And that's it. That's like I don't care if you were a pirate stowaway and came here from a foreign land, or if you were born next door and wandered into the guild one day.
Yeah.
But there's two things you need to do. Be a member of the guild and be willing to work with everybody else.
And we had 2 characters in our game whose races don't agree. And we still made it work.
Yeah.
Like, they were fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they didn't like each other necessarily, but they didn't hate each other, and by the end they got to know each other.
Yeah,
so it worked out fine.
Absolutely. So. Because the players were willing to work through it.
That's right.
So we talked about vetoing character concepts. Like, yeah, man, if somebody comes in, we're just like, oh, yeah, he's a lone wolf who likes to stab people in the back and steal things. No, stop it.
Yeah, and I think in the yes and concept, if you've got a character who says, my character is a thief, and they are very greedy. They will always try and get the money. Always. It's just who they are. They're a money goblin. Literally, I am playing a goblin, and anything shiny, I'm going to try and steal. Okay, that's a great concept. What do you value besides gold then? And shiny things, like where do you draw the line? Obviously, like, are you just gonna murder anyone for their silver? Like, you'll just rampage through a town unbridled because the shiny thing in front of you is waiting? Like, what stops you from that? If do you understand that there is some like moral boundaries there? What's the yes and that we can do here for that? And you can make that become something important, because maybe there's something more important than silver. Silver's, whatever shiny thing is the draw, is the greed, but there's another thing that could override that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Why do you have that? What is it fulfill? What, as I like to say, is that's what you're using to feed, whether it's a gluttony of some kind, right? Well, why are you feeding that? What's really eating your character?
Yeah.
So now that you know what's eating your character, that's what you're actually developing. The other thing is literally just a affectation.
Yeah.
And we'll play with that as time goes through. I'll make you lean into wanting to get that silver or whatever shiny thing that's in front of you at times when it's inappropriate. So let me handle that. But you're going to struggle at that other thing far more.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's personal image, whether it's friendship, that you can't accept friendship because you don't trust anyone, and trust is hard to build, but whatever. There's something else there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So
during play.
Okay.
So we've done what we could to nip it in the bud during session 0.
Right.
And so what do we do if this happens like during the middle of the game?
Well, you think about punishment. Punishment is always the first thing that comes to mind because again, we're officiating a game. So we become official at that point, and we want a yellow card, we want a red card, we want to throw a flag in the play, something like that, because it's our first reaction. That's a net reaction that you want to do.
Yeah, you want to keep it in game. You don't want to immediately be like, "Whoa, you're role playing wrong."
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, it's sometimes it spirals out of control before you can realize that it's an out of game and not an in game problem.
I would say what you have to, as a storyteller, you have to learn to adjust your reaction, and instead of reacting to it, watch the table. See where people are at. You will find where the discomfort is, and be prepared to handle the discomfort well before you react to that player. If you're feeling that reaction, someone else is feeling it at the table with you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So when you see the thief and he's just like, okay, I'm gonna go stab the barmaid. Okay, you're gonna murder the barmaid. Your first reaction is like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing that? Don't do that. Like, look around, check the table, see what the temperature is.
Yeah.
If the rest of the table's like, whoa, you're like, do you guys want to work on this?
Right.
Just step back. Let the table start doing. Now, the moment that you see that discomfort go from a level like 5 in game to out of game 7, maybe that's an X card moment to kind of step away.
Yeah.
And be like, okay, guys, we talked about interplayer conflict. What's going on here?
Yeah, absolutely.
This is clearly getting outside of the realm of comfort.
Well, my character follows an evil god, and so he's just going to murder the barmaid in broad daylight. Like, okay, first off, I think you misunderstand what your god is asking you to do, because you'll be immediately cut down by the guards.
Right. Like, have you done this before?
Yeah. Second off, maybe we're not in a position where you can be playing this sort of evil character responsibly.
Right. Like this sounds like an NPC. This doesn't sound like a PC.
Yeah, exactly.
So
maybe we talk about a new character here. You know, maybe your other character tries to stab a barmaid, gets grabbed by a guard, strong-armed, thrown immediately in jail. Make a new character. It's fine. The other guy's in jail. Like, no hard feelings.
We roll on.
And everybody in the group goes, we need another... Okay, well, I guess there goes our rogue. We need another entry specialist.
Yeah. Literally, you stab the barmaid, the entire group stands up, moves to the next table, and goes, we don't know that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
So as the guards take you away, a new rogue shows up at the table, and his name is... Work on that sheet.
Right. But yeah, no, I think, like you said, though, there's a certain point where you kind of want to look at that and just, take it out of character. And this is an instance where you should say no, drop the X card on that scene. Just be like, we're not doing the murder hobo thing here.
Yeah, unless the table is. And that's the thing, is taking the temperature of the table becomes the moment, is that if you have an established theme, maybe you're well into your game and you're hearing this in the podcast, you're like, oh crap, I've never set the expectations. I don't know where my players are at. And I've got a player who's been doing this on a regular basis. Okay, check the temperature of the table. See where it's at. See where the boundaries sit. Maybe they've been dealing with the fact that this guy has literally been randomly assassinating people through the entire campaign, because he randomly assassinates people through the entire campaign. So now there's history that has to be handled there, and people stalking him, and guards and wanted posters everywhere.
The only problem with that, though,
Yeah.
is trying to keep your consequences in game and just trying to roll with it. And their murder hoboing is that players who tend to just want to murder hobo the way through things just see additional assassins coming after them or guards coming after them as just more targets.
Correct.
And so then you end up compounding the problem and spending a lot of attention that could be going to moving your story forward and having everybody else at the table having fun with just this one murder hobo character now trying to fight 7 guards and 3 assassins.
So and Overwatch actually preempted this a little bit, which was fantastic. So the idea that I read, which was, if you've got a player who is constantly trying to do this, just say, yeah, okay. And ignore it, as if it's, sure, it happened, whatever. It's not even consequential to the game. And then later, when they meet with somebody or someone important or something like that, they're all like, yeah, you why don't you all join me in the office, except for you. You'll need to stay outside. Why? We've gotten word that you can't be trusted. My guards will keep an eye on you, don't worry. Mm-hmm. And just literally ask them to get up from the table and go in the other room while you explain plot. I'm sorry, you're not trusted. You're not trustworthy anymore. You're not. And at that point, the player starts to recognize that their actions have consequences, but they don't mean anything to plot.
I could see it working, but I'm going to be straight up with you. I think that's idealistic as heck.
It is.
And I would never do it simply because I don't trust people enough to get it.
And I think that's the part that got me out of it. Was like, I could never see that functionally working for most groups. Because
the type of person who would cause those sorts of problems in the first place have utterly no self-awareness. Mm-hmm. So banking on them having the self-awareness enough to go, oh, I'm the jerk, is few and far between.
Yeah.
Few and far between.
Yeah, and Overwatch's idea was give them an FBI profile.
Yeah.
I
mean, again, you could do it, but you're just eating up more bandwidth that could be used telling your story to players who are actually involved in your story.
Yeah.
And not feeding a murder hobo.
Correct. Correct.
All right, so we talked a lot about
in-game.
How to curtail people doing this wrong. Mm-hmm. How do you do it right? We talked a big game about how to do it right.
I think it's a tricky edge. I think the thing that you said earlier with Sean was that he had the line in his mind of where he would end. Now that extended to his character, which was great. Was that if it caused harm, he was done. Mm-hmm. And Sean had the mind frame of a both in-game and out-of-game harm.
Right.
And that's great. That's fantastic.
Yes.
That puts it in perspective. Whether or not the character justifies the I won't harm another person because they're a potential purchaser, a client of mine later.
Yeah, maybe they're a mark, maybe they're a friend. It doesn't matter. One way or another, they're valuable enough to you that you wouldn't cross that line.
Correct.
But also, Sean, as a person, realized that it would ruin the fun and cause complications in the party if he were to cross that line. Yep.
So having a line, I think, is one of the keys to it.
Yeah.
The more I've been, it's funny, I've been catching more and more clips of Amos from The Expanse.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And it's a character type I've never played. Mm-hmm. I've never played the guy who will do the things that others won't.
The wanton beat ass?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who basically just doesn't care what's going on around him too much, but cares about people in unique ways.
Yeah. He's got a mentality of like, these people are my people.
Right.
And those people are not my people. And the my people are the ones that I need to take care of, and I will do whatever I need up to and including killing the not my people to keep my people safe.
Right. And his idea of word, of someone's word, is intriguing.
Yeah.
He has a different mentality about when that's accepted and when it's just somebody saying words.
Yep.
When, like, well, you can trust me. No. That's not how that works.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think that's part of it. I think having that internal code, having that understanding of where your line gets drawn.
Yeah.
What makes you a hero? What makes you someone who can be in a party of other individuals? And what draws you into that group so that you not only can be part of a group and a group that will want to have you in it, but through that, you can grow through your issues.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that's probably like touching on like the biggest thing for me is involving the rest of the group in your damage.
Yeah,
is like Sean was very upfront about Thalion being a charlatan. He's always been a charlatan.
100%.
That is his stock and trade.
Yep.
It's only, in fact, like, I don't think he really did any damage during that final boss fight at all. What he did do was the clutch move of using his actor feat, a deception check, and an illusion spell to pull the boss off of you guys and get him away from the teammate he had just dropped,
right,
to give you the breathing room to heal her. And it was like absolutely clutch. In the end game roundup we did, everybody said that was like their favorite moment of the night.
Yeah, the pull away. Yeah,
you know, so just weaponizing his charlatanishness.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
To become combat effective was just amazing. So it comes as no surprise then to everybody when he does a charlatan move at the end and swipes the crown. But the second thing though was that we did like some ending scenes, right? So you guys got back, you returned home in the Dan Harmon story circle.
Yep.
You returned home.
Different.
Changed, right? And we did some scenes individually where you guys were meeting up with some of the other NPCs, and they had just some little like 2-3 minutes of RP. Just maybe they would visit you and they would say something or something meaningful. And I kind of wanted to push a couple of these bonds, you know, between you guys and these other player and NPCs and such like that. And as I was like, okay, I think that's it, Sean kind of looks up and says, I've actually got one more thing.
Yeah.
And I said, what is it? And he goes, so Thalion, alone, in his room, in his apartment, pulls out a handkerchief-wrapped bundle and places it on the desk in front of him. And he unwraps it, and inside is the crown. And for those who weren't paying attention, I think everybody kind of knew at the table, but like for anybody who wasn't paying attention, this is the first time it's been spoken out loud. Because there was a lot of like texting back and forth and like rolls done and winks and nods, you know, but nobody ever said, okay, Thalion steals the crown.
Right.
You know, this is the first time it's being said out loud. But Sean is giving this scene, even though none of your player characters are seeing this, the players then get to have this epilogue scene of him pulling out the crown and going, now what am I going to do with you?
It was very 7th Sea.
And fate, and that's precisely what I told him on the drive home. He's like, I didn't know if that was appropriate or not, because something their players would know. I'm like, Rob does that all the time to us in 7th Sea.
I do it all the time.
He shows us exactly what his villains are doing.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, I telegraph
Meanwhile,
motions.
in the Chamber of Darkness.
Yep. I telegraph motions of NPCs, so it's obvious. And I kind of want to get back to doing that.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I can do it in D&D, but I feel like because I haven't set the theme that way.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, exactly.
But
exactly.
But no, I think it was very well done. I think that adds to it.
And because it brought everybody in on it.
Yep.
And it was a great scene narration wise. It was very short but very poignant. But at the same time though, what it did was it was Sean's way of saying to the table, hey guys, like no hard feelings. Like this is part of the story.
Right.
I didn't steal from you guys to screw you over. I stole because I want this to be a story element. You know? And you're all in on it now.
Yeah.
You know, here's my secret. And I think that's super important, you know?
No, I think it's great. I think it's great. So
one of the things I would say too is you know, trying to make it like rare and meaningful.
Make the moments where when it does happen important and impactful.
Exactly. If you're stealing stuff from the party all the time, you're just being a jerk. But like if you're stealing stuff all the time, like for instance, I had a previous character in one of your games who was addicted to magic.
Yep.
And would constantly spend all of my money. Every time we got money, I blew it all on potions.
Or if we got potions.
I would like, hey guys, what do you say you give those to me? That'd be great. Like, I mean, I'll forgo any of the other loot if you just give me those potions, you know? Because of this character's addiction.
Right.
But first off, again, bringing the rest of the players in on it, and role-playing that addiction. So and I don't think it ever happened, but if at a certain point then I ended up like stealing a potion from another party member, you know, at that point, I've established that this is why and this is how. And I guarantee if you're role playing that sort of a thing, that sort of an affliction,
right?
But in any other way, getting along with the group and helping and bonding with them,
sure.
You know, if I'd have gotten caught stealing a potion from somebody, like, I guarantee they'd have pulled me aside and been like, "What's going on?
Yeah,
you know, how can we help you? Because this is getting bad when you're stealing from the group.
Yeah,
like clearly you've got a bigger issue going on here.
Right.
And I mean, you know, maybe you get the character who overreacts, and I wouldn't blame anybody for having hurt feelings over, or I would say in-character hurt feelings. Or I would hope at that point I've established the trust that the hurt feelings wouldn't extend out of character.
Right. Yeah.
But if you've at least laid the groundwork for it, you know?
But again, I think hurt feelings come from seeing something painful coming and not being able to do anything about it, and it just being, or it being violent.
Yeah.
In the way that it's presented. That you don't get a choice. This is happening.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other part about inter-party conflict is that if the other player doesn't get a choice, like they're not present in it, it makes it 10 times worse.
Oh yeah.
So,
removal of agency is one of the biggest pains in the butt.
So just because you want to do something, don't remove the agency from others to do something about it.
Exactly.
So
exactly. And I think probably the last major point here too is that be communicative with others during the RP.
Totally.
When the thing is happening, like you said, kind of take the pulse of the room, but at the same time, like, pay attention for signs of agitation, but at the same time, like, look, like, if you need to take a break from RP and just be like, hey, Rob, are we still cool? Like, this is in character, right? And just legitimately just do a check. I have been in, like, especially like at LARP.
Yeah.
You know, we mentioned before you and I went to the same LARP,
Yeah.
not the same time, but
but
I have been like in knockdown, drag out arguments with people where we were screaming almost to the point of drawing weapons on each other, and where I just real quick made the sign for this is out of character, and just said, oh, we're cool, right? And the other person just grins and goes, "This is great, keep going," you know.
Yep.
Okay, permission to grapple. My character's going to grab you now. If that's okay, do it.
Yep.
Slam him up against, gently slam him up against the wall. How could you do this? You know?
Yep.
Just do that pulse check, that quick check in. I guarantee, if the other person is into it and enjoying it, like, go for it.
Yeah. So one of my previous 7th Sea games that we had players in, one of the players was a she, a fae, and one of the things that they tend to do is steal babies. It's actually to send, because that's how they get more fae.
Yep.
One of the other players happened to be an explorer who was exceptionally witty and studied the she. Like this, one of the reasons why they were even involved in this was because there was a fae among them, and they were like, "Oh, crap! All right, I'm totally down for this." Well, the player had been hinting at things and kind of edging in that direction. We finally got to a point where we were at a town. And the player was just like I can't not. There was a woman with a child here. That child's mine. I have to. And so they snuck and they stole the child and replaced it with a stick that they transformed into a baby.
Yeah.
That by the next day would be a stick again.
Like you do.
And brought back a puppy to the group. And without missing a beat, I was just like, "Where did you get this puppy? Oh, isn't he so cute?" And I was like, "Oh, he's a great little puppy. Like that's great. We have a puppy in our group." And like the one character just kind of goes, "Wait a second. You went back to town. There were no dogs in town. And he just picks up his dice, rolls them, and it explodes to like 40. It was a ridiculous roll. And without missing a beat, right in character voice, he goes, "You put the baby back." "You will put the baby back right now." And just starts rolling through it as a character. And I thought it was really well done. It was an instantaneous moment of role play because it was in character, it was in tone, it was in voice. Everybody laughed about it because it sounded hilarious, but it was true. He was upset. You know, she stole the child. And so it eventually did get resolved through just that scene, but it was the struggle of the moment. And I thought that was a great way to do it, was to have the other player in tone, in voice, get upset. Like, but knew that it was coming. Like, had been expecting something out of this fae.
Yeah, absolutely.
And finally it reared its head, and he was looking for it and found it. And I thought that was well done.
Yeah.
I thought that was exceptionally well done.
Absolutely.
Because it made it funny. It made it work. So yeah, I think that's pretty much our list.
Yeah, I think we've belabored the point nearly enough.
Knox did get a question in.
Yep.
As a DM, how can you make sure you're not planting narrative landmines designed to break apart your party? For example, I'd have to imagine the whole dark deal with a villain while an interesting story hook is also a super fast way to split your party and set them against each other. How can you make sure there is a positive choice to be had?
Oh, I mean, you bring up a really interesting point with the whole dark deal sort of thing, the offer of power.
My whole thing about offers of power and or deals like that, when you present them to someone who already doesn't have a compass or a boundary, you are presenting a problem.
You are.
In any story, you're presenting a problem. Just hand it to the person with no scruples, and you will get the result that you expected.
Exactly. And I mean, look, sometimes this is a difficult one because I think the short answer is you have to already know that what the answer is going to be when you make the offer. And it's tricky because on one hand, it makes your villain look a little foolish for, like, turning to the paladin, the oath of devotion paladin, and you're like, oh, join me and become evil, and you could have all this power. And of course they're going to say no, they're a paladin, But at the same time, if the villain is intelligent in any way, they would make that offer of power to the person with no scruples because they'd have the highest chance of success.
But that's the thing is that a good story doesn't come from challenge, even for your villains. Your villains have to have their own challenges. One of the best lines that I read, and I'm going to paraphrase it poorly, I'm going to recite it poorly, was that demons don't target people's souls that look like their own. Because there's no value, there's no weight to that.
No, sure.
There's no challenge. So they need to find weight. And that weight carries for them.
Oh, that's true. Because if I offered power to a person with no scruples, there's nothing stopping that person from turning on me just as easily.
100%.
If they'll turn on their group, they'll turn on me.
Correct.
Yeah. But the paladin is a true believer.
Correct.
If I can woo him to my side, he'll stay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Or someone who is struggling. Just a tug in a direction.
Yep. Give them the one thing they can't get with the other group.
Let them seesaw. Use that energy. That's the thing about demons you have to be. Now, again, if it's not a demon, if it's just another individual, why do they want this person? What gives them an edge with this person?
Yeah.
Jane's a good example. Guy basically offered him money, which is the one thing, and clarity. Like that was the one thing that would take care of the problem because he knows, A, the ship's got issues. Money's needed. He was willing to share. Like, once it was solved, no problem. But at the same time, he trusted the wrong person. He trusted the wrong group. And put everything against it. And it turned poorly. His choice was poor. So, it all comes down to understanding the target and why that individual is targeting them specifically.
Yeah.
And if that person's already doing the job, they're not going to target them. There's no point.
Right.
If they're doing it for manipulation factor, that they're just trying to slow them down, sure. There's other ways you can go. There are definitely other people you could go after that would be much easier than these targets.
So what do you do? What do you do if you do make that offer of power? And now I kind of know I have my own answer here.
Sure.
But what do you do if you do make that offer of power and the character says yes?
Then you take it slow. You make them work for it in ways that they don't expect.
You don't just immediately grab the character sheet?
Again, it depends on how far they go with it. They may have a legitimate way that they're going to work it to their angle. Talk to them out the side on. Be like, so what's your angle?
Okay, see, I was thinking more like, in the heat of the moment where, they've got, the villain is standing there and he's like, just bring me the artifact and I'll spare your friends.
Sure.
And, having the one person holding the artifact going, sorry guys, he's got leverage on me, I gotta.
Right.
And then going and joining the villain, At that point, like, when those two abscond together, you just take his character sheet and just be like, okay, your character is an NPC now.
No, I would say, what's your angle?
Mm-hmm.
And if their angle's like, well, I'm joining them. I'm flat out joining them. So you're just going to join them.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go against your group 100%. Yep. It's what my character would do. All right, hand me your sheet.
Yep.
But if they're like, no, because I'm going to backstab him. Then you're not going with him. Like, whoa. So what was your angle?
Right.
Let's talk about the story.
What's your approach?
Because, if I'm walking over to the guy with it and he believes, because I've done a few things for him already, that I'm just going to hand him the artifact, and then when I get like 3 feet from him, I literally attempt to stab him in the eye, because I've gotten that close to him, and I drop the idol or whatever it is. Great, you've done that. Is fantastic storytelling,
right? But then that's not him taking the offer, though.
Correct.
That's him betraying the guy and continuing the forward action of the story.
Right.
But I'm just saying, is like, what if he does? What if he just says, okay?
Yeah. At that point, then you're no longer with the party.
Yeah.
You've stepped outside of the story. Sorry.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And that way you don't run into a bunch of like, oh well, I'm going to still play the character, but I'm going to try to kill everybody else at the table.
Mm-hmm.
That never ends well. I've seen some other horror stories online about that sort of thing too.
Yeah.
So it's a really good question, though.
No, it's the crux of the whole thing.
It does make me think, and it definitely makes me think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I've ever had a character successfully do that. Like, I've had villains, before who've been like, join me and you can have all sorts of power, but it's always been an immediate middle finger and then a fight,
Right,
know?
Exactly. Like, I don't like you. I've never liked you. You've tried to kill me a lot of times. Why would I ever want to join that?
Yeah.
Because you're just going to try it again.
Look, first off, you're a lich.
Yeah.
So
that's not going to work out.
We're pretty clear as to who the evil party is here,
Right.
So...
Yeah. So next week's
topic,
we are talking about how to lore dump organically.
Yeah. All right. So lore dumping. What do we mean? What do we mean by that? Because I know that. So we always get some post show questions of like, what exactly is this topic?
So when I'm talking about lore dumping to myself, I'm talking about when outside of the setting, outside of where the players are at and stuff, getting the meat and potatoes of the plot and what the direct setting around the plot is.
Mm-hmm,
That's lore. Okay.
How do you convey things like history and culture
and importance of that, whether it is or isn't to your plot,
without just monologuing for 45 minutes at your characters as they slowly nod off,
especially about tea and cigars and things. Oh my god.
Yep. So how do you dump lore into your game and make it so that it's organic? Because it flows with the game rather than against it.
Because it's really easy to just ramble when somebody's just like, what do I know about the elves? And you're like, well, and you just kind of go off on this tangent that takes you 15 minutes to explain.
And especially if it's a setting you've written yourself, because you're so enthusiastic that your players asked about it. That Trust me, I have been there.
And the other thing is making sure that your players know what's important in that lore dump.
Yeah,
I think that's the hardest part about it, and I'm definitely going to talk about some of my trials and tribulations that I've had with it and what's been successful for me.
Yep, absolutely. But that is a discussion for future us. You can find us on Twitter at @ST_Conclave, on Instagram at @ST_Conclave. Listen to us live every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on mixlr.com/storyteller-conclave. And while you're listening to us live, you can, if you are one of our Patreon supporters, you can hop in our Discord and join the live chat. Even if you're not a Patreon supporter, join the Discord and join the discussion there. Shoot us some questions. We'd love to hear from you. You can find that link on our Twitter or on storytellerconclave.com.
We'd like to thank those Patreon members, especially our name members, Knox in the Box, Sam, the Arcane Asylum, Sparkle Motion Veteran, and Hulavu. You help us so much every week. Our pre-show music is Arcane Anthems. You can find that at patreon.com/arcaneanthems. Our intro music, Beyond the Warriors, is by Geefrog. You can find that at geefrog.bandcamp.com or on Google Music. Our outro music, Only Our Footprints in the Sand, is by Midair Machine, and you can find that at freemusicarchive.org.
A big shout out, as always, to our families, Vicky and Sean. Thank you so much for loving and supporting us. All of our friends who've sat with us at our tables over the years to give us these great stories to share with you. And you, every single one of our listeners, we love you so much.
Love you guys.
Stay safe. Good night.